Good afternoon. It's time to call to order the Tuesday, January 26, 2016 meeting of the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust. First item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the November 17, 2015 Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust meeting.
So moved.
The motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And it is approved. Next is to ratify the claims.
Would like to move. Oh,
We have a motion to...
I'll second.
And a second. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. And the claims are ratified. Next are items needing individual consideration. First item is final acceptance of Project MS-0051, Phase 1 of the Bricktown Infrastructure Improvements.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This item here, this is the final acceptance of the Phase 1 of the improvements that Tax Increment Financing District Number 2 is funding. This is Phase 1, and there will be a Phase 2. City Council allocated $1.75 million a while back, and this is completion of the first one. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the trustees?
No questions, but would like to move approval.
Motion to approve. Second. Any discussion? Jim, do you want to in on this one, or do you want to wait till the next one? You wait? Okay. Cast your votes. And it is approved. Next is item B, amendment number 4 and change order number 3, project PC 0453, Cottage District alleyway construction, and SC 0914, sanitary sewer improvements.
This amendment will allow Public Works to utilize an existing contract, the Cottage Way Alleyway District, which is a unit pricing contract, to fulfill our obligations as it relates to the Criterion Performing Arts Center down in East Bricktown. Part of our deal with them was we would provide assistance to them two ways. One, we would actually provide assistance to the developer directly. The other one would be through providing some public improvements. And this contract will allow us to go in and redo the alleyway, along with some of the curb and guttering in the area. And this is just a mechanism that we're utilizing, that we've done this before, where we can be more efficient with our time. And again, it's a unit pricing contract. It's been competitively bid, and everybody seems to be okay with it.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. And it is approved. Next item on our agenda is the Northeast Renaissance Project Plan. Brent, are you going to present that? You.
Change order
Project.
number 2 and amendment number 2 to the City Hall lawn.
Okay.
This is C. Okay, no, it's C. It's this one.
All right. Correction. Item C, final plans and specifications for project MB 1054, project 180, pedestrian plaza is next. Not the City Hall lawn. Yes, sir.
The pedestrian plaza project was one of the priority projects identified in the Devon Implementation Agreement. The trust approved the preliminary report at their August 25th meeting. The project will create an inviting public space adjacent to and behind Oklahoma Tower, Robinson Renaissance, Corporate Tower, and the IRS building. With the trust approval and City Council concurrence, the project will bid February 10th and February 17th, and bids will be received on March 1st. The construction budget is $3.2 million, and it is fully funded from TIF 8 proceeds. And with that, I would try to answer any questions that you have.
Questions?
A question. The estimated construction cost has changed considerably from the first time we discussed this. If I recall, it was closer to $4 or more million. Can you speak to that change?
I think the overall project budget was at 4, but in Public Works, we tried to then derive a construction budget that takes out any design fees, any testing fees, a contingency, and that sort of thing. So the actual construction budget has settled at 3.188 for some period of time, but your memory is correct. The overall project budget has always been $4 million.
Okay. And since there's no follow-up or no attachments associated with this item, can you remind us of the layout? Because you've got, some contiguous property ownership and then public space?
It does. If I can focus maybe your attention to the southwest corner of Park and Robinson, where the Robinson Renaissance building is. If we went to the back side of that building and then west all the way over to Harvey, so going behind Robinson Renaissance, Oklahoma Tower, and then along the west side of Oklahoma Tower. And then if we went back to the corner again and went south and went behind Corporate Tower, and then the little, what most of us refer to as Raven Park, between Corporate Tower and the IRS building. It basically encompasses that area behind those buildings. It does leave some of the surface parking at the request of the individual who has a parking agreement or a land use agreement with Urban Renewal. But it goes in, it does establish a water feature, but ADA compliant sidewalks, seating areas. There has been an effort to be respectful of the retail study that was done for Park Avenue and kind of reinforcing maybe the views towards Oklahoma Tower and that sort of thing.
So the improvements are on public and private areas?
Yes.
It's all public property.
Yes.
Yes, it's all on public property. Some of it's owned by the Urban Renewal Authority, and then some of it is city right-of-way, but I think most of it's owned by Urban Renewal.
And so the area that's adjoining, like Oklahoma Tower and Corporate Tower, and what happens to the transition between these improvements and that space?
Okay, would you ask that again?
Yeah, I'm
Mr.
not
Roth?
sure.
Sure. Well, again, I wish I had a layout, so I'm sorry. I'm just pulling from memory from our previous discussion. I'm just curious, with all the pedestrian traffic in that area going in and out of buildings, what's the transition from those buildings, curtilage, for lack of a better word, and the public improvements within this project?
Well, I think the goal of the public improvements is actually to strengthen what we see today of people kind of cutting through the garage or cutting between buildings and that sort of thing. So it's the goal of it is to actually link those buildings together and then link them back to the sidewalks that have been done as part of Project 180.
Appreciate I guess wait for the bids to come back and see what the specifics look like, but I appreciate the help. Thank you.
We could probably send to you a package that shows what the improvements, some drawings and renderings of what it looks like. There is a preliminary report that has all of that information in it, and we can email it to you or put it on the website or something and send you a link.
That'd be great.
It's pretty big.
And just to be transparent, as I tried to ask questions when this originally came up, not opposed to the project. It just seems like a lot of money for the amount of space we're talking about. Sure. And I just want to make sure that the private property that adjoins it has a similar commitment to the level of improvement that's likely to happen.
Correct.
And I recognize that there's a serious public safety issue associated with the amount of foot traffic that's around there.
Yeah, well, I think, there's a couple of elements in the design that are expensive. I mean, just to be, very open about it. There's some sculptural elements in the water feature that are going to be, I think, pretty remarkable and really in the keeping with some of the other improvements that we've seen funded through Project 180. But I also want to say that we also have a commitment by the owner of Oklahoma Tower and Corporate Tower to maintain this area forever, including the water bills and the electric bills and the other kind of maintenance. And they maintain it now. For Okura, we don't, and actually they pay us rent as well. So I think, we believe that there is that commitment from the private property owners to make sure that this area really is kept well and that it does provide a great feature for downtown Oklahoma City for everybody.
Any further? Yes, ma'am.
Relative to the construction period of time, how long is that? And is there allowances to allow those pedestrians to still have access during that period of time?
Yes, there will be access maintained. It will probably change as the construction changes. Construction is expected to start in April and run through March of 2017. So it's just short of a year's construction project.
Thank you.
Further action or desires by the trustee? We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? Please cast your votes. And it is so approved. Next item, we'll get there correctly now. Project MP 0447, change order 2 and amendment number 2, City Hall lawn renovation project.
Thank you. This is Amendment 2, Change Order 2, and then final acceptance for the City Hall lawn project at a value of an increase of $76,318.25. The larger items making up the increase are a reroute of electrical and drainage infrastructure across the site, the addition of one additional lighted bollard, angle iron added around existing electrical vaults, a change in the fountain equipment to match existing electrical voltage supplies, and the addition of ADA ramps to 2 interior sidewalks. The increase is fully funded with TIF 8 proceeds, and again, with the trust approval and City Council concurrence, the project will place the 2-year maintenance bond into effect.
I'd like to move approval.
Motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Please cast your votes. And it is approved. Thank you, sir. Now we'll get down to the item that I was trying to get to earlier. Okay. Joint Economic Development Agreement, City of Oklahoma City and Charles A. Shadden, LLC, for the Northeast Renaissance Shopping Center project.
This item is the approval of an allocation from Tax Increment Financing District Number 9, or the Northeast Renaissance TIF District, for a project at Northeast 36th and Kelly to rehabilitate the Northeast Shopping Center. The maximum allocation for this, if you recall, the Northeast Renaissance TIF District includes both sales tax and property tax. So the sales tax, on every project, we take a look at these project by project and a case-by-case basis. And in the case of this project, the total allocation to be paid out over time is $2,060,000. Of that, there's $1,150,000 in ad valorem revenues that will be paid out over a 20-year period at a rate of the less of 1% of the project costs, or $80,000 a year. And then on the sales tax, that amount is the maximum amount of sales tax increment will be $910,000 to be paid out over a 15-year period and capped at $80,000 a year. They are subject to a minimum ad valorem payment of 1.15% of the project costs, or about 81% annually for the life of the TIF. We expect completion around the end of 2016, and Rick Brown, the architect on the project, is here if you have any other questions or need more information.
Step up here just in case.
So Chairman, if I might, Mr. Brown, thank you for being here. And
Sure.
I guess first a word of thanks to the city for the initiative of TIF 9 and focus on this area. I'm grateful for it. The Ward 7 resident, and my hat off to Councilman Pettis for doing what many people thought wasn't possible. But now we're kind of where the rubber meets the road, so I've got just a couple questions about the project. Do you mind describing, we've seen the concept design, but can you describe what taxpayers that drive by can expect to see and when, and the assurances associated with hitting those milestones that entitle you to the TIF?
Sure. Thank you, number one, for the interest that the city's shown, and particularly, as you said, Councilman Pettis. The project is a 96,000 square foot existing retail property that our family essentially has owned for many years. And so we came up with the notion a couple of years ago that, it's a viable area. Once we saw that the city was evaluating a TIF district in that area, we began to start thinking about, there's still some life here, and we can still develop this into the vibrant shopping center that it was, 30, 40 years ago, when it had, TGNY, a grocery store, a cafeteria, and a lot of other great community kinds of occupants. So, with a little bit of study, looking at it, we found that there are essentially 9,000 rooftops with no retail service over there. So those people are going somewhere to spend money, and a great deal of it's not in Oklahoma City. So, we came and talked to Councilman Pettis and to Kathy O'Connor, and, over the last year and a half or so, we have developed this plan to renovate the shopping center. You've seen the renderings. It's going to be a combination of stone and tile roofs, and, the best way I can describe it is, go look at some of our projects in, say, Edmond at like 33rd and Boulevard, and we haven't done this project with any less architectural significance or intensity than we would do a project anywhere else. So, we didn't want to do it if we had to do it as a second-rate project, just because it's in an area that that economically screams to have this kind of project. So what we did was we developed a nice project. We anticipate, although we don't have them completely signed up yet, our first objective is to get a grocery store, and unfortunately we lost our first grocery store we were working with. Got another one that we think is viable, so we're pursuing that. We have one of our local regional estate professionals groups working on it, and they're spending a lot of time with regional, national tenants and local tenants. So we'll have, I think, a good mix. Some of them will be larger tenants, some of them will be smaller tenants, but it's a big shopping center. It's 96,000 square feet, so there's a lot of area there, and it's going to take a while to fill it up. So, we're honestly, it's from an economic standpoint, it's not something that makes a whole lot of sense. So it took the city's assistance to make it a reality, or it just wouldn't happen.
So the out parcels are areas where you look at new construction and the rest is a rehab or reskin, or what do you envision?
That's right. It's essentially the only thing that'll be left of the existing shopping center once we start putting tenants in it is the steel frame and concrete block, some of the concrete block walls. The rest of it will be new. The out parcels will all be new construction because there's not anything on those parcels at this point. We also own the site across the street, not where the shopping center is, but the parcel of land behind the existing shopping center where Dollar General was, and we own the shopping center at, that's to the northwest kind of also, and that's a next phase. We recognize that there's a lot that needs to be done in that area to upgrade it, and we've got a big stake in that because we effectively own 3 pieces of property there. So,
is that the triangle at Spring Lake?
The triangle at Spring Lake is actually owned by another owner. The part behind that, just to the east, that kind of wraps it, we have that, and then the site to the northwest of that we have that's existing retail and the old club there that we need to do something with that to get a different tenant in there, but it's going to have to be rehabbed too. So we're actually talking to some parties about the potential for some new market tax credit money for that parcel, and so that's kind of next. But we're really focusing on our existing 96,000 square feet first to get that going and get off the ground.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for the overview. I guess if it was easy, it'd have been done before now.
Yeah.
But with the amount of commitment you have to make, the amount the city's making, it's a real partnership that I hope everybody just stays committed to get it right over the term of it, because that area deserves it.
Well, they've been awesome to deal with, and there are a lot of people on this panel up here that deserve a lot of credit for working with us when it looked very difficult to do. And Mr. Pettis and Kathy O'Connor and Amanda have all participated in helping make this a reality. So I thank all of them as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You indicated that the first fish that you went after, as far as a grocery store, got off the hook, is now swimming around back out in the lake. Was that a unique situation just to this particular prospect, or is it systemic problems that will cause difficulty in finding that entity that you finally end up with?
You know, I think the tenant that we were dealing with previously economically is having some issues nationwide. So, frankly, I'm not completely surprised that they bailed out, although the timing of it surprised me a little bit because they were really enthusiastic about doing it. And, you know, I think there are some bigger economic reasons why they bailed on us. But we have another grocer. It's a little smaller footprint. Instead of 25,000 feet, it'll be 18 to 20,000 square feet. So we were dealing with them actually first, and then we got the other grocer that was going to take 25,000 square feet. So that looked like a little bit better opportunity for us and turned out not to be. So now we're back with our initial group, and fingers crossed, we hope to get a letter of intent from them in the next couple of weeks. So we're pretty optimistic about that.
And now, as far as tenants are concerned, you do have some requirements in there that there are certain tenants which will not be allowed to be on the property. Would you articulate what those are? And
well, you know, a couple of the things that we don't want to. Our interest is in getting tenants that provide a certain level of quality from a lot of perspectives for the neighborhood. Number one, they need a grocery store because so many of those people are actually shopping at convenience stores, and you know, a lot of them don't have cars. It's difficult transportation-wise, so we want to provide that opportunity for them. What we don't want there are, you know, a lot of the things that, you know, things like clubs. We don't want things like, I mean, you know, there are a lot of various kinds of occupants that we really don't want, and I worked with Amanda and the city to kind of craft some language in there that we completely agreed to, and I think there are a number of them that are listed that we don't want. I mean, our incentive is to get retail tenants in there that pay sales tax, because that's how we get our TIF money back, is in a big portion of it's in sales tax rebates. So, you know, some of the people that we're working with are, you know, a sporting goods store, a hardware store. There's actually a state agency who's very interested in going into it that Councilman Pettis actually put us together with that's a very good potential. But, you know, by and large, it won't be things like clubs. And, you know, we do want food service operations in there. You know, those are the types of things that we're trying to get into it. Health and fitness tenants are, you know, something that we're very interested in, and we're actually talking to those kinds of people. Personal goods and services, salons, nail shops, things like that, are a target, certainly.
well, in reading the documentation here, correct me if I'm wrong, I see that adult entertainment, such as nightclub or club with adult entertainment, will not be allowed.
Right.
That is correct.
Restaurant or bar. And you just mentioned food service. I don't see how that ties in. I read this as saying no restaurant.
Sure. The list only addresses the kinds of tenants who would be the anchor tenant.
Right. So in order to qualify, part of their sales tax incentive payments, the installment payments that are available, are based upon a percentage of sales that come from their anchor tenant. An anchor tenant, which would have all adult entertainment, restaurant or bar, predominantly service-based, or recycling processing center, would not be qualified as an anchor tenant. So they would not be entitled to any sort of incentive payment based upon those tenants.
So these tenants could be on the property, then they're listed here on page 6?
They could in another portion of the property, they just could not be considered the anchor tenant.
So we'll make sure all of our adult entertainment facilities are not anchor tenants.
I'm sorry, say again?
Don't make it.
That was sarcastic.
I'm kidding. We won't have any adult
not laughing at
entertainment.
that one.
We won't have any adult entertainment facilities. And if they wanted to write that in there, that would be acceptable to us. I'm fine with that.
Okay, I assumed it was written.
He's offering to amend it.
Yes. I would, for one, accept that. Do we need anything to do, just say, does this group have to vote on that?
You can, and Mickey, if you want to step in and discuss, but you can amend you can approve the document as amended, and then we can seek to get an executed document with that language from them. So this body will have approved it as amended with that restriction, and it'll then go on to City Council for its concurrence.
With the amendment.
Right.
It's my understanding that anything like that would be completely a special use permit anyway, which would never be granted, so I don't, I mean, I'm fine with you putting it in there, but there's also another level of approval that would have to go through before anything like that could ever get built, so.
And that is accurate as to the adult entertainment. He would have to have a special permit to allow that.
If I could ask just a question clarified regarding your amendment. Is a restaurant with beer, wine, or liquor service considered an adult entertainment? Or is this the...
No.
That's what
it
surprised me
shouldn't.
about this list, Jim. Okay, that one,
Right, because to meet the TIF objectives of generating sufficient sales tax for their benefit in the city, you want more than just an 8 to 5 use of the space. And so I just wanted to make sure we weren't hand-tying him with something overly restrictive. I share the idea about the definition I now understand is not appropriate. There's Thelma Parks Elementary and Northeast High and other places not far from there. So thanks for the clarification.
Rick, if given approval today, what's your time frame for the reskinning or actually it's greater than reskinning?
Yeah. We have already bid the project. Drawings are done. The project's bid, and it's effectively we're setting up a groundbreaking right now. So I would say certainly within just trying to determine what our steel fabricator's time frame is, but you should see demo going on within the next 2 to 4 weeks, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. I think our time frame, as I remember, it's like 8 months. I think we're into the fall for completion of this year. Yeah.
we're confabbing up here.
Yeah. This is a high-level
Big time.
high-level deal. Yeah.
Does he want John, would you entertain a motion? Okay, I'll make a motion that the list on page 6, with the exception of restaurant or bar, be prohibited as any tenant on the property.
I would make sure that I would disagree that I'm not sure we want to do that, prohibit any establishment that is predominantly service or entertainment based, because things like a nail salon or a chiropractor's office would be a service,
Yeah.
and I think we'd want to be able to have those. We just don't want them to be the anchor tenant. They don't generate enough sales tax revenue to justify the TIF allocation to be, actually don't generate any sales tax revenue, to be the anchor tenant.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
we don't want to deny them the opportunity to be there, but our incentive is to get people who are going to pay sales tax so that we can recover some of that. But like the state agency that we're talking to, they wouldn't pay any sales tax, but it's a good tenant for the property. So,
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to offer a suggestion, perhaps in the spirit of your amendment, which is on top of page 6 in the draft, simply strike from the list of prohibited uses, adult entertainment, uses such as a nightclub or club with adult entertainment, leave the rest, amend with a new sentence that simply reads, in addition, by agreement of the parties, adult entertainment shall not be sought or allowed on the property. And just keep it in its own separate category and not try to overly wordsmith the anchor prohibition.
Okay, and that's, you making that as a motion?
I can if you think it's consistent with what you were asking.
It is with me, but I'll see if,
Then I'll offer that as a motion.
I withdraw mine. Is there a
I
second?
offer that motion.
I'd like to second.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? Please cast your votes. And it's so done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. No, we need to vote on the whole proposal as amended. We have a motion and a second as amended. Any further discussion? Please cast your votes. And it is so done. Thank you all.
And I do want to give special thanks again to the Shattuck family and Rick Brown. This has not been a easy process. And also, I want to also thank Kathy, Brent, and Amanda and Wiley for all working on this particular project. And this is our first TIF District Number 9 project. So we are excited about it. The community is definitely excited about it, and we are grateful that the Shattuck family has stepped up to the plate. So again, thank you.
Thank you, John. Moving along, item number F, Joint Economic Development Agreement, City of Oklahoma City and Main Street Arcade, LLC.
This is for the redevelopment of the Main Street Arcade, which is a project here in downtown Oklahoma City that was allocated, a TIF allocation from the downtown TIF several months ago. This agreement specifies that the maximum allocation of TIF will be $350,323. It's paid as installment incentive payments over the remaining 9 years of the downtown TIF, and that the project is subject to a minimum ad valorem payment of about $57,000 a year. David Wanzer is here, who is the developer on the project, and we expect completion, I guess, by the end of 2016.
That's correct, Kathy, yes. Happy to answer any questions about the project you might have, and thank you for your consideration.
Would you like to give a commercial about it, or you just...
Sure, be happy to. It sits, it's a Main Street Arcade building that sits about 2 blocks from where we are right now on Main and Lee. It's a 30,000 square foot building that was built in the 1920s. It's most notably known as the home of the Downtown Baptist Church and also one of the colleges that, I'm going to forget the name of that particular Hills Business College. Because your mother went there. I remember that, John. And John practiced law upstairs, too, at one point in time, I believe. So it held municipal courts up there for a short time. It has been vacant for the better part of the last decade. We were in the process of $5-6 million redevelopment of that project down to its structural bones, including reinforcing the second floor structurally for modern-day office loads. So it's 15,000 square feet upstairs, which will be office tenants, and then 15,000 square feet downstairs, commercial retail, looking to anchor that with a couple of restaurants and then some other ground floor retail businesses. So, and we expect to be done by the end of the year. So we're excited to bring that building back to life and add some much-needed street life to Main Street again.
Thank you, sir.
David, it said that you had 50 parking spaces across the lot. Is that going to be enough to accommodate the traffic that you anticipate with restaurants and businesses?
So we currently have executed a lease last week with the police union on the corner lot on the southeast corner, which holds around 30 people, and in negotiations with David and Dennis Box to secure some additional parking on that side of the street. There is some parking, and we're in the process of maybe getting an LOI in place with Embark to secure some parking spaces for the office tenants in one of the 2 parking garages that are within a 2-block radius. We actually did a parking study internally in our office, and there's 700 on-street parking spaces within a 3-block walking radius of that building, primarily up and down in front of the Civic Center, but there's a tremendous amount of street parking as well. You bet.
I'd move the item.
We have a motion to approve. Second, any questions? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And it is approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, item G, memorandum agreement between Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust, Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority, and the City of Oklahoma City.
This item is an economic development agreement basically with the Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority. Several months ago, $950,000 was allocated by the City Council to support the build-out of the first floor retail space in the Arts District garage. In order to build out the space and maintain competitive rental rates for the space, COTPA requested an allocation of TIF funds. And if you recall, we've been pretty successful in relocating several nonprofit entities to the space. The Oklahoma City Public School Foundation is there, and the rest of the space is being finished to accommodate the Philharmonic. I'm going to forget one, I'm sure, Oklahoma Council for Humanities, and who else? Jason, Canterbury Choir. We're also building a shared conference space that can be shared as like a board meeting room for all of those different nonprofit organizations. The Urban Renewal Authority will also use the space for its board meetings. And then we have the city clinic that's part of the space, and a coffee shop on the south side. And there's, I think, 1 or 2 retail spaces that still remain. So that is the purpose of this agreement, and has been a big help in getting that space finished out.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And it is so approved. Next up is the acceptance of revised deeds and declarations of covenants related to Midtown HC Number 2 Mixed-Use Project Economic Development Agreement.
Brent, would you like to talk about these?
Yes, sir. It was brought to our attention that we amended the agreement with the developer, the covenants, and the actual economic development agreement a while back, and it came to our attention that the dates on the covenants did not agree with the dates actually on the agreement. And so what we're trying to do is harmonize those two together. So we're asking for you to amend or approve the amended agreements, and so everything will be in sync.
Would like to move the harmonization.
Do we have to sing to that or not? All in favor of harmony? No. Any further questions? Please cast your votes. And it is so done. Don't go away, Mr. Next item is an amendment number 2 to the Edge Apartments Residential Project Agreement.
This amendment here amends the EDA to replace the subordination agreement that was originally attached to the agreement. This project is backed by HUD, and HUD had some concerns with the wording of the subordination agreement, and Wiley worked on an amendment to a lender's agreement, which basically provides us the same position in the project.
We have a motion to approve. Second. Wally, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were supposed to present that. Would you like to come up and speak?
I couldn't add anything more to it.
Okay.
The HUD requirement, but we get the same benefit you had under the title of subordination.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I do have one question before we vote. The description describes it as 249 residential units, a 463 space parking garage with 282 parking spaces. What happened to the net amount of parking spaces? Is that for the retail that's in and around the area, or somehow it's used for a different purpose? Okay.
The parking garage was basically overbuilt for to support the other resident
area,
the other commercial uses in the area, and the retail space in that development itself.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the, do we know what the occupancy is of the edge as it relates to both the residential and commercial?
The residential, Regina and I toured it last week, and it's 93%.
The commercial space, however, is not completely leased.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, please cast your votes, and it is approved. Next on our agenda, resolution consenting collateral assignment of the Civic Center Flats residential project.
This request was made by the developer and their banker. The collateral assignment would only occur upon the event of default and by the developer for the repayment of the loan made by MidFirst Bank. And essentially, this just assigns that the rights of the developer to MidFirst Bank in case if that occurred. They closed on their loan at the end of last year, and construction is underway.
Your motion?
I'll second with a question.
Second?
And so
now
essentially,
questions.
essentially, we would just be second in line after MidFirst with the asset?
No, I believe it would give the bank the right to step in the shoes of the developer should something happen and receive the TIF installment payments, but also have to the same requirements and obligations of the developer to. Right.
They're going to build the apartments kind of piecemeal as they get agreement signed on them. So the bank wanted to be sure in case they didn't follow through with that, they had the right to. So it's just assigning the whole agreement to the bank in case of a default.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Any further questions? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And it is so done. Next item on the agenda, item K, joint resolution, Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust and City of Oklahoma City, amending and ratifying agreements of support and instruments associated with notes issued by the trust in favor of J.P. Morgan.
Yes, sir. The Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust has two outstanding debt. They have a note that was put in place back in 2008, and then they have a line of credit that was put in place in 2014. And what this will do, we're in the process, the City Council, we're going through the process of creating 7 new TIF districts. One is before the First National Center, and then the other, there's 6 others for the Court of Shore TIF, and that's actually in the process that will go to the Planning Commission this Thursday. In an effort to create those new TIF districts, we're having to carve out a portion of properties that are already in the existing TIF District Number 2, and essentially the taxes from those properties have been pledged to the outstanding debt of TIF District Number 2. And the amounts totals a little over $100,000 in taxes right now, and we've talked with the bank, and they're amenable to carving that out, and this is just one of the things that we have to do in order to do that. We anticipate the new TIF districts to be considered for final consideration by the City Council on February 23rd. So we're trying to get this in place prior to that happening.
Let me ask you a question, Brent. I've had an inquiry come through, and the individual thought that the other TIF districts had already been set up and approved. Would you speak to that just one more time?
We are in the process of amending the downtown TIF district and in the process of asking for approval of a new Court of Shore TIF district. The process began several months ago for Court of Shore with the establishment of the TIF Review Committee by City Council, and then it's gone to the TIF Review Committee. It went to the TIF Review Committee in December. It goes to the Planning Commission this week, and it will come to City Council in February. So the new Court of Shore TIF district is not yet established. Council hasn't considered it yet, and will do so in February. And actually, the final vote on the Court of Shore TIF district will be the end of February. On the downtown TIF, that is an amendment. That amendment is on the same track and will go to Council for final approval in February.
Now, if an individual had something that he wanted to bring up or she wanted to bring up in opposition to this or clarification, there are additional meetings in the process for that individual to come before and get their questions resolved.
Yes, there's 2 required public hearings to City Council, and then the Planning Commission meeting this week is also a public meeting, and citizens can come to that as well.
Thank you, Kathy.
A follow-up question, if I might, Brent, so that I understood you. TIF 2, which originally included properties, perhaps even First National Center, are being carved out of those original indenture issues for the sake of this newly proposed TIF specific to that. And the trustee bank is comfortable with the in and out so far that we're not in jeopardy of undermining previous commitments. All right.
Yes, sir, there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. We have a motion. Second. Any further questions or discussions? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And it is so done. Thank you, sir. Next on our agenda, resolution authorizing a change in estimated cost of professional services with the economic development law. Estimated cost increase of $50,000.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. In 2012, the Economic Development Trust entered into an agreement with the Center for Economic Development Law to provide us legal services from time to time. And as we just mentioned, we've been very busy with the amending of the downtown TIF district, along with the creation of the Court Shore TIF district. And the Center for Economic Development Law has been an instrumental part of that. As a result of that, we estimated when we did this contract back in 2012 that it would be about $50,000 a year. And this year we're exceeding that, and per our direction from the city's purchasing agent, they advised us to bring this item back to you to tell you the estimated cost was going to be closer to $100,000 for this fiscal year only. We do not anticipate that going forward, but we've utilized their services as we created these new TIF districts and made this amendment to the downtown TIF district.
Thank you, Brent.
I do have one comment as it relates to the Center for Economic Development Law. They have been definitely great to work with, and I just wanted to speak about their service to the city and to the trust and to other entities. There's definitely been good to work with.
Thank you, John.
I'd like to move approval.
Have a motion to approve. Second. Any discussion or questions? Please cast your votes. And it is approved. Next up, we have a recommendation to receive a report, and that is the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust fiscal year 2014-2015 annual financial report. And the trustees have a copy of said report.
Just that this is the fiscal year 2015 report that was received by the City Council back in December and submitted to the state auditor as required. And I'd be happy to answer any question that you may have.
We have a motion to receive. A second. Any questions or comments? Please cast your votes. And is received. Thank you, Brent. Next up is the Oklahoma City Economic Development Foundation fiscal year 15-16 second quarter report.
Good afternoon. Michael Ogun from the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber. We'll try to keep this short. We're aware there's another item on the agenda and things are running a little bit long.
Now we're going for the longest meeting in history, so take your time.
So we should go through page by page?
Word by word if you want, or
Okay.
character by character.
Kurt's not here. He's traveling. Otherwise, he'd be in front of you again. While calendar 15 was a banner year for the city, we're here talking about the last quarter. Typically, the last quarter of the year is a little slower than one would expect in terms of it's not 25% of our deliverables. We find that companies particularly either rush to the end of the year to make decisions or they delay and put them off. And this year it appears that we have the former, not the latter, or the latter, not the former. We're seeing a lot of uptick in activity just this last week or so. If we skip towards the latter part of the report that deals with sort of the metrics on our BRE program, we're running pretty close to half of what the expectations are for the calendar year in terms of visits to companies and those kind of things. we still are running low on the number of jobs. And I think part of that is a softening in the economy overall and people being a little nervous. Part of it is we've had a couple of very good years in terms of local businesses expanding, hiring new people, and that may taper off. Plus, with the economic conditions, if they have a choice, they'll probably wait a little longer than they might have otherwise. On our recruitment programs, same sort of thing. We're a little low on the job count relative to halfway through the year. The spring of last year was a very big blip. We expect this spring we may see a couple of things similar to that. We saw a very low level of activity in the fourth quarter. To the extent between Thanksgiving and the end of the year, there was essentially nothing that was happening. Although things have changed, as I noted, just this last week. Retail activity is keeping up with metrics, and that is sort of a bright spot in what we're seeing. Attached in the back part of the report is some marketing material. It was one of the pieces that were put together for some recent activity on the retail side. We're trying to keep current with providing material to interested parties so that we keep on sort of top of mind, top of their radar in terms of markets they're considering. And I guess at that point, maybe we'll let, if there's any questions, we'll leave it at that. Things are moving along, but again, a little bit slower than one would hope on a quarterly basis.
Comments or questions from trustees?
Quick question. Never mind. I lost my question. I'll save it later.
Do we need a motion on this one to receive? Need a motion to receive?
I'd like to move that motion. Second.
Motion is second. Any further questions? Thank you. And it so passes. General Manager's report. We must one. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, Maureen, I just looked. How could I forget that? Maureen Heffern for the Myriad Gardens. Welcome, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Well, I would like to give you just a little rundown from past year since I was here. So we have some images to show you, just a brief rundown of a year in the life of the Myriad Gardens, and then I'll also update you a little bit on our financials and how our fundraising is going and our number of people that we serve this year. Well, we had a terrific 2015. A lot of things happen, and I'll run you through the year. So each year, in January, we start the year with a MLK celebration in the Crystal Bridge. We really try to make the gardens a site for the community to celebrate events, holidays, seasonal things, and every year our numbers are growing. We go right into an orchid show. That's been really popular in the bridge the last few years. We do a beautiful orchid show to take advantage of the expertise we have, the resources, a wonderful destination in the wintertime, increases our revenues. We move then into a beautiful spring display in the gardens of outdoor bulbs, and we just got a large grant, a $200,000 matching grant. If we can match it, we can build up a permanent endowment of $400,000 to make the spring a real destination and wow for the city. So we're working on fundraising for our endowment as well. We put on a beautiful display in the spring. So you'll be seeing this soon at the gardens. We also did a lot of improvements in 2015. We replanted all of the trees around the Great Lawn. The ones that had been planted had a number of some disease issues, and so we invested in that to make the Great Lawn the showplace that it needs to be. We go right into planting throughout the gardens. We're continuing to fill in to do final plantings throughout all of the garden areas to make them really full and attractive for all of our visitors and events. That's job number one, to have a beautiful, beautiful botanical garden. We put in a new prairie last spring, which has been very popular with people, and it's terrific for ecological gardening, sustainable gardening education programs that we're doing more and more for all ages. Our Easter egg hunt has been very popular, a great community event for folks from all over. We have hundreds of people. We're adding new flights to that this year. It's been really popular. We try to do lots and lots of programs for families throughout the garden, so we're constantly coming up with fun new ideas for families to enjoy the downtown. Spring Festival is very popular. We're doing the Jungle Book this year. Last year it was the Charlotte's Web. We bring a book to life to encourage kids to read. And these have proven to be very popular fundraisers for us. We get lots of new members, hundreds of new members, and that's been really terrific for our fundraising. And we try to put on really quality events, so the level of artistry and programming, we really like to keep that high, and so far we've had a great response to that. We're always adding new programs for health and wellness and things that can do double duty to bring us in revenue. That's great. So we've started a Father's Day 5K last year, which did quite well, and we'd like to grow that, so that'll be coming back this year. Really encouraging people to get out and move. We have our popular full moon bike rides. We've been expanding that to add a runner's component every month to that. We just have hundreds of people who come out for that. Again, lots of wellness programs throughout the grounds. We added for seniors, programs for them. We've added paddleboarding. Last year, we'd like to do more of that and take advantage of our lake. Dancing in the gardens, we're doing that this year monthly. We had a few last year, and we just had hundreds of people turn out. So they'll be taking over the seasonal plaza this year. A lot of these, just about most of these programs you're seeing are free, and we do a lot of fundraising through corporate sponsorships so we can have those free and affordable for the community. We have dinners also throughout the gardens, and you've probably saw the news about our restaurant changing from a full-service restaurant to more of an event center, where we'll still have open dining on certain nights, but we'll also use it for events like this. This happened to be outside, but we'll be planning specialty dinners and all kinds of different programs in that site, so we make full use of it. Concerts, of course, on our Great Lawn remain popular, but we're trying to use other venues throughout the grounds to keep it really active and fun. We rent out different locations in the gardens for all kinds of private parties and lots of weddings to help with our fundraising. Shakespeare continues to be popular. Movie nights, cat video festivals. We have dog programs now that are really in demand. The Children's Garden Playground continues to be really popular. International Mud Day, we have to celebrate that at the gardens. The water features are popular, great investments for the downtown, day and night. Reading programs in the Children's Garden, we continue to invest in that garden, to do lots of programmings, to fully plant it out more. Lots of art programs, lots of science programs for kids, photography programs. Our Fall Harvest Festival just grows in popularity. It's a big fundraising event for us. Beautiful fall colors throughout the garden. And then at the end of the year, of course, we open up the ice rink. And we've had a very good season this year. We had Thanksgiving weekend. There were a few weather weekends that weren't great, but we're rounding out the season very successfully. So the rink has really been discovered, and even though we had some bad weather days, the other days, that attendance is growing. So we'll probably have well over 25,000 people this year. And the winter shops were successful again. The carousel, we'd like to make that an annual tradition. So all of these things, these are the numbers for this year so far in our current fiscal year. We've served about 153,000 people in our programming. That doesn't include just the casual visitor, lots of events that private rentals or things that are other groups rent the lawn, and lots of people are able to attend them. So this is about a half a year's worth of work where we've put on programs that people have attended. And just a quick summary of our financial performance in the fiscal year ending last June, our total expenses are $3.4 million, a little over $3.4 million. The city in that fiscal year helped cover our utility expenses. So with last year's fiscal year, our total revenues that we brought in was a little over $3.7 million. Of that amount, the foundation raised $2.1 million. The balance of that money is primarily from our management fee from this committee. And so we did meet, our goal was to achieve at least 50% of our overall expenses, the foundation, our nonprofit. So we did. And this year our goal is 52%, and we are on track to achieve that. This just gives you a little more detail about our fundraising progress. We actually had a very good fundraising year. Our budget goal was to raise at least $820,000, and we ended up achieving a little over $1.1 million. We were a little low on our earned and program revenue. We were a little low on that, but our fundraising more than made up for that. So we're really delighted that the community sees the importance and work of the gardens, and they're fully supporting that. And this is our 6 months ending for this fiscal year, and we have a net income so far of about $225,000. We've kept our expenses. We've been able to keep them a little bit lower than what's budgeted so far. So we fully expect to meet our 52% of the total budget for this fiscal year as part of our public-private partnership. And I'll end with, we were fortunate, we had 2 wonderful awards this year, or in 2015. One in the spring, we were selected as the top nonprofit in the state by the Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits, which was terrific. And we had a national award in October. We were selected as the best open green space in the country by the Urban Land Institute. It was a real honor for us and the city. So that was just a great way to end the year. Okay, any questions?
Any questions for Maureen? Yeah, Jim said congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks for your support.
Thank you very much. No action was required on that. Now, General Manager's report.
Yes, sir. The General Manager's report is through December of 2015. Staff is working with Terex and FMC to try to get additional information so we can process their SIP claims. From the Outlet Mall, for the period from August 15 through November, we're about 2.4% below our target. And as you've heard, probably the city overall is seeing a decline right now in our sales tax. So that's kind of following along with that trend. With that, I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
Any more questions for?
Just one question on the company employment strategic investment summary. Any updates necessary there, or anything that you're...
What page were you on, sir?
Sorry, on page 2 of your report. Anything on your watch list that you're mindful of, or that we need to be mindful of as certain industries are experiencing contraction?
We have received notice, like for the Baker Hughes project, they're continuing the construction, but they did not meet, they went below their baseline, so that's one job, I mean, that's one project, but they're still following through with the investment. Southern Global, we're still trying to get some information from them on that project. I don't know if that one's going to proceed. And we're trying to follow up with like AT&T. We're having some difficult times with getting contact with the right person there on that one. The Chamber's helping us out on that. Again, FMC and Terex is another one. I don't think it's even on your list, is another one that we have. Yeah, there it is. The 1,500 jobs. I believe that they're not progressing as planned too. So we are seeing some slowdowns, but I can tell you we spent a significant amount of time with Boeing working with them, and they are they're not having a slowdown right now. Okay, so And Paycom also, they're still, I drove up by there yesterday, and they're in the process of building their third building. And we've got a agreement we hope to bring to you at our next meeting for Paycom, and also for Boeing, the third Boeing project that was brought to you months ago. So,
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Brent. Any comments from staff? Comments from trustees?
If I might just quickly add, this is a really robust agenda, and I didn't want the moment to go without recognizing the enormous amount of staff time, city resources, private sector people that are still bringing good ideas forward. It's just really encouraging to see. I mean, this agenda is across the board, with things getting started, things getting refined, things getting tweaked. Oklahoma City is essentially doubling down on itself, and I'm just really encouraged by it, and just wanted to say thank you to all of you that are making it happen.
Okay, citizens to be heard. Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you for your coming.